Hello, everyone, and welcome to our day 4 of tuning into guidance. So, this is our day 4, and today we're going to be talking all about tarot cards, oracle cards, and other ways of receiving guidance, and how we can start to really tune in and use these tools to assist us. But before we go into any of that, let's go ahead and let's do a little review of what we have learned thus far. So we have day 1. Day 1 was our foundational work, where we really looked at the concept of everyone is psychic. Everyone has the ability to, tune in and get guidance. We're just not aware of it. And the way that we gain that awareness is with what we talked about in day 1, which is getting like a little pocket notebook or going on your phone and setting aside like a place in your notes for intuitive hits. And we write those down. We write down the time, we write down the date. And the reason that we write down the time and the date, remember, is because just because we're getting that guidance doesn't necessarily mean it is for right then, right there. So we are writing it down, writing down the time, writing down the date. So that way we have that evidence of saying, wow, you know what? This did happen. It maybe didn't happen right then, right there, but Spirit was giving me a forewarning. So that was all day 1. Then in day 2, that's where we started to talk about how psychic energy is meant to be fun. It's not meant to be in a box. It's not meant to be complex. It's not meant to be hard. It is meant to flow. It is meant to be, a time when you are just allowing yourself to be done through, when you're not trying to strain, you're not trying to make it work, you're simply allowing it to. And you're allowing Spirit to kind of give you the guidance in a way that best suits you through one of your clear abilities, be it your clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. I mean, the list, there's tons of different clairs, which we talked about in day 2. And then yesterday in day 3, we talked about being willing to release agenda. And we know that that's such a big one, releasing agenda and really learning about surrender. And, remembering that surrender doesn't mean we're giving up. It means we're giving over, because we understand that we do not know. And so that's what day 3 was all about. Now, remember in day 2, one of our tools that are in day 3, one of our tools that we talked about in the way of surrender is really writing out our plan, like what we think is going to be the best plan. And then being able to read that and then simply saying to ourselves, I'm not going to let the past intrude on my present. I'm not going to let it interpret my now moment, and just ripping that up and being with, that's a symbolic representation of saying, I'm done with my plan. I'm ripping it up because I don't know what the best plan is. I don't know the best way to do this. And we just kind of throw that away or we burn it. Another way of really practicing surrender is just practicing that ability to say, I do not know, and being willing to admit that to yourself, because all too often we are not willing to admit that. We are steadfast and stubborn saying, my plan's going to work. And we really want to stay away, remember, from the, come on, Spirit, tell me how to get my plan done. Because remember, that was something else we talked about yesterday in day 3, where we talked about, the come on, God, where we are constantly saying, this is my plan. This is how I want it to work. Now, Spirit, you tell me how to make my plan work. And remember, Spirit is going to help you, but it's always going to do it for your highest and best good. And remember, we can't always see our highest and best good, not because we're stupid, not because we're, incapable, but simply because we are only doing it from the past. Because remember, that's where the ego exists. It exists in the past, and it keeps on bringing the past and trying to bring it into the present moment. And then we keep on asking, why does the same thing keep happening again and again? Well, the same thing keeps happening again and again because you keep on bringing it in with you, which is where we practice, surrender and doing EFT tapping, so forth and so on. So now here in today's session, what we're going to be talking about is tarot cards, oracle cards, and the different spiritual tools that we can use in order to help us to receive that guidance. Okay. So what I want to say about these tools is that that's exactly what they are. They are tools. Now, I know for myself, being a reader, that for a long time, I was very dependent on the cards, being like, well, if I don't have the cards, then how am I going to get the messages? Believing that I needed the cards in order to get the messages, when in truth, when in fact, I did not need them at all. The cards and whatever other tool you use is a medium that you are using because you are still learning how you receive guidance. It's not that the cards are bad. It's not that the cards are good. They are simply a medium. They are a tool, but we cannot let the tool become our crutch. Because when we start to do that, what tends to happen is then we accumulate like 7,000 decks, number one. Number two, then we are really interposing a middleman. And the reason, and I come to this because I remember that I used to just give these messages and I'd just be giving out messages and I always be like, where's my message? And I remember one day I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to a flotation tank and that's what I want to do. And it was for a birthday. So I went to the flotation tank place. I was super excited. I went in and I was all ready to like meditate and just, do the whole thing. So I get there, I get in the tank and, things start happening, in my awareness. It's really cool. And I'm like traveling through space and all this stuff. And then I get to like this platform and I'm standing on this platform and it's my voice, but just saying things that I wouldn't normally say and in a much deeper tone. And basically this voice says, why do you need a middleman? And I was like, what are you talking about? Why do I need a middleman? I want a message. I want someone else to give me a message. And Spirit was like, why? Why do you need someone else to give you a message when I'm giving you the message directly? Why do you need someone in the middle? And I was like, OMG, I never really thought of it that way. I'm getting direct messages, just like all of you are getting direct messages. We don't necessarily need someone else to interpret that for us. And that's one of the reasons that I really came up with the 8 weeks of guidance course, was to really illustrate and show everyone that you don't have to go to a psychic to get a reading. You can do it yourself. You don't have to go to a psychic to get guidance because you're getting the guidance. You just have to be more aware of it. That's it. And from that moment on, I was like, okay. And I started to realize that I was using the cards as a crutch. Now, something that I did to help me, and this is not by no stretch of the imagination, do you have to do this? It's just something I decided to do with the prodding of my friend, Deborah Bowen, the Inner Queen coach, and Marianne of Marianne Soul Coaching when I was, we were working all together. And they were like, Ron, just like get on there and just give messages to people. And I was like, guys, I don't know. Like, I really need the cards. And they were like, Ron, you don't. Spirit already told you don't need the cards. And I was like, you're right. And so I went on live and I was like, okay, I'm going to be giving messages. And it was just like whatever came to my mind. And I remember I got this one message for this one gentleman. It was from his guardian angel. That's just what popped in my head. And I told him, this stuff. And then the next day he came back and he was like, thank you so much. Like, your message was dead on. Everything that you said, that was apparently that I needed to do in order to get myself moving. Like, actually, when I did it, things started moving. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so then as I kept on doing it more and more organically, the messages would just come out. And it started to become more of me just being in that awareness and just allowing Spirit to give messages. And that's the thing that we don't realize is, yes, the tools are fantastic because they can give us a little more insight. So I want to show you one of my decks here. Now, this is called the Frequency Tarot deck. Okay, so that's what this one is called. And I love that the first card there is moving forward. But so all it says is moving forward. Now, this is not a traditional tarot deck. This is just a different kind. But even though it's a different kind, what we can really see here, and I'm showing this to both those of you on YouTube and those of you on Facebook as well. So you may see it, a little differently. I'm trying to make sure there's no glare on either camera. And so, we can tell a lot by this card. And it's not because you can, it does come with a book, just like all, things do. But instead, you can just start to be like, okay, well, what is this card saying to me, moving forward? Well, what I'm seeing at the bottom here is the spiral. And that spiral is actually circled in red and yellow and green. And so with those three colors, it's really saying that right now we're moving through some of our unhealed beliefs around our safety, our security, our sense of self. And that green represents that healing. So we are moving forward in our healing process from the root and the solar plexus. And, we are beginning to awaken. We're beginning to bloom. And that's how we're moving forward. Once again, just my interpretation based on just the color and something I'm drawn to. Because that's the other beautiful part of these tools is when you use them, spirit is going to guide you towards, a specific, maybe there's a specific color, maybe there's a specific part in the deck or, section of the deck that you need to pull from. So maybe, if we just pick this up right now and we're just like, okay, just, where does spirit want me to go with this? Okay, so here we go. And I love it because here's the card, alignment. So spirit wants us to know that we have to be in alignment. And, we can go deeper and deeper into this. But right now, this is what Spirit's main message is. This is what it's calling us towards, to get into alignment with the truth of who we are. And as we get into alignment with the truth of who we are, that is when the guidance comes in. It is when we are aligned with our egos that the guidance is not clear. And it seems very confusing because the ego is confusing. But when we are in alignment with our spirit, when we are in alignment with the truth of who we are, that is when the guidance is clear and crisp. Okay. So that's just something that you can do. And there are so many different ways in which, you can do that. And the way that I like to describe Oracle and Tarot cards are like your very blunt aunt who is like, here's your problem. And, this is what you need to do to fix it. Where oracle cards are like your grandma, where it's a lot softer and it's like, oh, I understand that, you're going through a hard time right now, and that's okay. Here are some steps that you can do to help you get to where you want to be. Where it's a little softer. Not that it's any less accurate, not that it's any less hard hitting. It's just a different way. Tarot, like I said, is very in your face and like, okay, here's the issue. Where Oracle is a little softer with it. And that's why I prefer Oracle cards, because I like that softer message that, it's basically not just saying, you did this terrible thing in the past and now it's coming back to haunt you. It's more like, okay, you need to practice some forgiveness. And so with Oracle cards, like I said, they're a little bit softer. Their messages are just a little bit softer. And, there are so many different types of Oracle cards. And, some are going to have, very just light messages. Others are going to be a little bit heavier. So, just for example, this comes from the Nature's Whisper deck. And so the card here is the Renewal of Peace. And so what this card is really telling us is that we need to return to our innocence. And remember, our innocence is not necessarily within the body. Our innocence is within our minds, and we need to return to that innocence, return to that sense of safety and security to really renew our peace. And we also need to be willing to look at our own inner truths. And, each one is going to lead us somewhere different. But we have the light, because you see she's holding this little candle here. We have the light of awareness, to really help and guide us. And as we do that, we need to set our intentions. Now, this, of course, says make a wish, but I use it more as, set that intention. What is it that you would like to experience? And then we have to be willing to take that leap of faith. And remember, when we take a leap of faith, it's not so much about, you have to leap off the cliff, But you are invited to take that step. Like that's the invitation. Take the step towards spirit, and spirit will take 10 steps towards you, but you must take that step. So that is, something else that's really beautiful about all of these different decks and all the different pictorial representations of the decks. There are thousands of different oracle cards. There are thousands of different tarot cards. They all have similar meanings, but they all also mean different things. And so we have to really be willing to kind of just gravitate towards what works best for us, what feels in alignment for us to work with. Like I said, for me, I'd much rather work with oracle cards. I just enjoy that their way of delivering messages more. But maybe you like tarot cards, and that's absolutely fine. Now, another tool I want to discuss is pendulums. And I've heard a lot of different things about pendulums and how they're good and they're bad and they're this and they're that. Once again, it's a tool. You give the meaning to the tool. The tool in and of itself has no power. The power is coming from you. That's where the power is. It's not coming from like we talked about. The cards do not have the power. What has the power is your consciousness, and your consciousness and the consciousness of the universe is just interacting with the cards, bringing forth the messages that you need. And the same thing is true when it comes to a pendulum. The universe is using you to guide, for guidance in whatever way, shape, or form. Maybe you're doing it for another person. Maybe you're doing it for yourself. But it's just a tool. It's something there to help you in the interim of still believing that you need a middleman. That's all it is. It's just that interim of, okay, well, I'm still believing that I need something to conduct this energy because I still don't believe that perhaps maybe I can conduct it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this tool to conduct that energy because, like I said, I'm just not feeling up to it right now. And once again, absolutely fine. And it doesn't really matter what tool. You can use I Ching, you can use bones, you can use one of my very favorite ones that I actually learned at a psychic class that I went to is psychic art. Psychic art is such a wonderful tool. And I wish I still had my psychic art that I had done. But really all you have to do, and you can actually do this with just a piece of paper and some paints. And all you have to do is just kind of pick whatever colors you want. You can even do the colors of the chakras, and it can actually give you an accurate chakra like reading for yourself and like what you need and how and what you may need to work on. And all you have to do is you hold the piece of paper in between your hands. You just kind of imagine your energy going into it and, suffusing the paper. And then you just put those little dollops of paint in like little squeezy bottles and just put, however much. Maybe you want to put a lot of green. Maybe there's a lot of white. Maybe there's just like a little touch of red, and maybe it's not in a straight line. Maybe you want to put it in different places. You let yourself be guided. And then you just fold the piece of paper. You can fold it hamburger style. That's just what I prefer. And then you just kind of crease it, make sure, the paint is flat, and then you open it up and bing, bang, boom, you have this beautiful picture in front of you that you get intuitive guidance about as it's drying. And the beautiful thing is it will continue to shift and change as it dries, and you just get to see more and more depth. And I remember doing this at the psychic the New Age people where I was doing the class at, and I was doing it with this woman, and I was telling her, the things that I was seeing in the picture, and, she was loving it. And, I'm very flowery with my words. And that's something that the psychic person who was there, the teacher had said. He's like, Ron's really flowery with his words, and that's fine, but where the teacher, he was much more direct with his words. And he said, either way is fine, because you're getting to learn that, and you're getting to see how spirit wants to work through you. And that is the beauty of any psychic tool that you use, no matter what it is. It is a tool. The tool does not have the power. What has the power is is the consciousness in which you are doing it. Okay. The universe is using you as a conduit to give guidance. Once again, it can do it through cards. It can do it through, the bones. It can do it through psychic art. It can do it through, just doing channeling. That's another great psychic tool, is channeling, which is basically where you allow your consciousness either to step aside or to merge with a collective and to bring forth a message. Just another tool. That's all that it is. And that's something, and I know I keep harping on it because it's so important to realize that the tool does not have the power. You are the power behind the tool. Okay. You're the battery. It has to be hooked up to you in order to do its job. So it's all about you. And like I said, you can use whatever tool you desire. You can use oracle cards. You can use tarot cards. You can use the bones. You can use I Ching. You can even use one of my very favorite tools. And I don't think I have a book of it. Well, I have this little guidebook, but Bibliomancy, which is basically where you just put a book, and it doesn't matter what book. If you're looking for specific spiritual guidance, then yeah, you might want to use a spiritual text, but you can really do it with any book. And you just put your hands over the book. You can either open the book or you can just use the cover, and you just close your eyes. You just kind of, once again, you're just infusing your energy, and you're just asking, okay, spirit, what is it that I need to know? What is it that you would like me to know in this moment? And then that's it. You open it and you go. And here's what we landed on. We landed on page number 35, and it's moving beyond. And so it says, if you've drawn this card up right, it's the time to, it is, I can read English, right? It is time to extract some meaning out of the negative that you are currently experiencing, or the negative that you have experienced. You have been anchored down in the past struggles that seem very current to you because you are still making them real. You are still bringing them up. So now is the time to move beyond them. So really beautiful. And, like I said, that actually goes with a lot of the different cards that we've read, is we're moving beyond. We are really willing to move forward. And that's really, once again, the reason that I came with the 8 weeks of guidance course, is to help those who wish to, get into guidance and learn more about guidance and experience a life of guidance, to have the tools that they need in order to do so. And that's what the 8 weeks of guidance course is about. And of course, you can find more information, the full syllabus and everything about it, on my website, awakeningmiracles.org. And it's actually in the description of the video. If you're interested in looking at that, or just wanting to learn more about me, you can, of course, go find that. So that is really, I think, the biggest things that I wanted to bring forth today with our messages of different tools. That the tool doesn't have the power. You do. That you are the battery for which the tool, can really do its job. Doesn't matter what tool it is. It all comes down to you, because if you don't pick up the cards, you don't pick up the pendulum, you don't pick up the I Ching, you don't pick up the book, then how can, then once again, it can't work. Guidance comes through you. And that's something you have to remember. It doesn't matter the tool you use, be it cards or anything else, crystals. The guidance is coming through you. Okay. And another thing that I will say about that guidance coming through you, regardless of whatever the message is, remember this: whatever message you give is a message that you need to hear as well. Regardless of, where you think you are on your journey, if you're getting a message for someone else, it's most likely somewhere in that message is something you need to hear as well. So that's why when I do readings, I'm always very aware of what is the theme, or what's coming through, in order for me to also gain some guidance. Because remember, Like I talked about in the beginning, when I was asking Spirit, why can't someone give me a message? Why am I not getting messages from other people? And Spirit said, because I'm giving you the messages directly. Why do you need a middleman? And once again, the second reason why I created the 8 weeks of guidance course. So you don't have to have a middleman anymore. So you can just automatically receive that guidance. Another, and speaking of automatic writing, it's another really interesting tool where it kind of moves the logical part of the mind out of the way, and it allows, Spirit to use the arm. Is that always the easiest one? No, that can be difficult for some people to kind of move out of the way and just allow Spirit to like move their body. But it is, conscious stream writing. It's a beautiful tool you can use as well because it gets you to see what you're focusing on. Okay. So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. If you're interested in the 8 weeks of guidance course, which will be opening at the end of, the end of April, forgot what month we were about to be in, then you can go check that out on my website. And I will be live again on Monday. I will not be live tomorrow, but I will be live on Monday doing our April energy forecast. So you can come back both to Facebook and YouTube and maybe Instagram. We'll see if I'm able to go live on there because I wasn't able to today to view that. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. And I send you all my love.